Call the meeting to order. It's 7:08. Here we go. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Hubbardston Board of Library Trustees will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via Zoom. In the event that we were unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website a comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So I'm going to take a second to allow Morgan in. She's not in. Yeah, I don't see her yet. Okay, she's not there yet. So let's call the meeting to order and let's go with the agenda. So I honestly did not get the chance to read over the library director's report. I just saw it before the meeting began.
Yeah, I just sent it. I had sent it to Johanna thinking
Okay.
that she was going to be doing the minutes. So when I realized that she wasn't here, I was sending it out to everybody. So.
Okay. Do you want to tell us?
Is it in the email? Because I'm taking the notes, so that would be helpful.
It's in the email. Yes, Chris, it's in the email.
Yes, I just sent it to the most recent email like 10 minutes ago, Krista.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
But I can read it if you'd like.
Well, just whatever you were going to present, or were you just going to not present it and we would read it?
Oh, no, not at all. I don't mind reading. I just didn't want you guys to, I didn't want you to have to handwrite out everything I was saying because I already typed it up.
Okay,
so
that's
awesome.
good.
All right.
If you guys are ready for it, I'll be happy to start reading it.
Go ahead, Chris, please.
All right. So for the past month, we've had 23 curbside pickups. We had 100 patrons attend. Our Facebook totals are low because we really didn't do much this month. We had 88 page views, 199 posts reached. Total page likes is 632. And for our town, for our library Wi-Fi hotspot, we had 30 connections for the month, which is a drop, but that's because we're not open as often. So we suspended virtual story time in October. Miss Michelle is going to be unavailable for a few months, but she should return in early spring. We hosted Mary Jo Maycheck, and we had 5 attendees create fairy houses on the front lawn of the library, and a good time was had by all. Later in the month, Greg Maycheck offered 6 attendees a pastel workshop for adults. And as usual, the attendees took home some wonderful artwork, and everybody, again, raved about Greg and love to have him come back again next year. Both programs were funded in whole or in part by the Hubbardston Cultural Commission. We just started the Senior Book Club, which is up now and running. We just read The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff, and they're going to be doing Educated by Tara Westover for their December book, and The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead for January. I submitted the ARIS and state financial reports to the MVLC. We should receive a compliance certificate in early 2021 for that. Our numbers have remained steady for curbside pickup, but attendance has increased a lot by 11% since September. Based on the increasing COVID numbers that we're having, I don't recommend increasing any of our open hours at this time. Okay. I do have a phone call into the Royal Steam Company in Gardner to check our steam traps and get a quote for replacing any broken ones since we're getting into the winter months. Halloween books will put on display and they'll be replaced with Thanksgiving items next week. I would be planning summer reading programs, but with the uncertainty of COVID-19, I do not plan to organize any in-person programming at this time. But I'm not averse to having a Zoom or a Facebook Live type of program. So, and that is it. Oh, and the next page has a breakdown of all of the monies that we have as of September 30th. and in each account and what expenditures were in each account as well. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
I have a quick question. I'm not sure it was in there. I don't think it was.
Okay.
So you and I talked about air purifiers for the library.
You know, we did, and since we only had 6 people sign, in fact, we initially only had 2 people sign up for the pastel course, and but 4 people showed up later, and it wasn't the social distancing, physical distancing worked out fine. So I'm holding off on the purifiers. I'll still investigate it, but I'm not. It's not a priority for me right now.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the way the library is running right now and the safety measures that are in place?
Absolutely. The other thing is that we haven't even, I think I've hit 7 people in the library at one time. My limit is 8, and that still falls within the limits put out by the governor for in-person, for the number of people that you can have in an indoor building at one time. So I think we'll be good.
Okay, cool. Does anyone have any questions?
Can I just ask about sorry, where's that page? These trust funds, I know we're going to be talking about that later, but what I took away from Ryan's, what he said at the previous meeting was that we should be trying to spend some of this money.
I don't think he wants, it's not so much the trust funds as it is the donation account and probably the dog fund and the state money. We get the money from the state, and the donations obviously come from the road race and other
I see.
other people. But the trusts, I think, are a different animal because I think they have certain requirements. And I believe that you and Johanna went through the old paperwork to try to identify what they were supposed to use those monies for in the trust accounts.
Yeah, I mean,
But the other parts, yeah, that he'd like us to zero those down.
well, I'm only bringing it up because as we go through this strategic plan, I think maybe we could be looking to see if there's things that we're trying to accomplish, use some of this money for. I mean, Tom has all the information about the, if the funds have restrictions, but I think he was saying that for the budget, if there's all this money floating around and then the town is asking for, more things, or, it makes it a little bit harder. I'm not saying we have to spend all our money, but if we have it to spend, that could be, it's good if we know we have it to spend.
Could I inject something there? I think there's 2 things. In the area of trusts, whoever said it is right. They have some restrictions, and restrictions 2 ways. There's financial restrictions in that you usually can't spend down the principal. You can only spend the interest gained. And I'm in the process of trying to figure out what that is, because the accounting reports we have do not go back to year 0. They pick it up somewhere and report interest, but that's probably only part of the interest. But the other kind of restriction is for purpose. In other words, library beautification or books or whatever the purpose is. But that's the trust funds. That money isn't going to expire. It doesn't have any shelf life. We don't have to spend it right away. That's okay. The budgets and our race fund, if we start accumulating money, we should have a plan for how we're going to spend it. We don't necessarily need to spend it, but we need to designate it for purposes so that the town knows we have purposes and it's not just a pot of money sitting there idle. You don't have to spend it, but you have to designate what you're going to do with it.
So I believe, Chris, you probably have plans for most of the money that comes in through donations, or you know, the requirements for the library. In the past, we've done beautification projects, right? The bench.
Well, from it, the short answer is no. I tend to use the state money for our summer programming when I pay that, which, you know, doesn't really put a big dent in it. I tend to use the donations. No, I can't remember what I use the donations for because I haven't touched it. We use it for expenses for the road race, and we will get.
We used it, I could interject here. We used it for sanding the floor, painting the walls. We did use some town money and some race money for that. And we burned the
Okay.
account down maybe $10,000.
Okay.
There's,
So the short answer is that I do not have any designs on these monies outside of the road race and the scholarship monies that you put out once a year.
Mhm.
there are a number, there's also two kinds of money. The race money is one kind of money. And the CPC money, the Community Preservation, CPA, Community Preservation Act money, when we get that allocated, you usually have 2 or 3 years to spend it. So you don't have to spend it just in the fiscal year. We have some money from that category that we're going to do the foundation deal with. We also have identified, and Chris helped us with this, we identified a number of, I'll call them leaks, where
Yeah.
where you can be standing in the library and look outside underneath windows and whatnot. There's some places that need to be worked on, repaired, weatherized, insulated, and sealed back up. We haven't contracted that yet, but that is another area where we'll be spending some money. Let's call it weatherization.
Okay, so let's keep thinking about what we might need at the library. It's a valid point that we don't go to the town if we have some money to use for whatever we might need in the library, either structurally or whatever might be upcoming. Okay, so let's think
Can
about
I?
it and talk about it again. Go ahead, Morgan.
Okay. So thinking about, and it's not perhaps too early, we can piggyback off of this past fiscal year scholarship fund and get ready for that and earmark. If we have funds to increase where we had all kind of indicated how we would love to give a gift or more scholarships or more financial aid through those scholarships, that's an option. Some other libraries are providing like go kits for books. So in lieu of virtual story time, maybe it's something to where we could do themed bags with like books, and or if we have budget to even, I don't know if the library would want to get into the area of giving books to kids to keep for literacy and early literacy, but giving resources and then perhaps a take-home craft activity. So those are initiatives that Levy and Forbush have started. I'm not sure about Rutland and or Barry, but I know that they have discussed. So maybe that's something that we could do. I don't want to put more work on Chris, but just ideas of ways of spending money and also having literacy in the library reach out into the community.
I mean, that might be a nice way to do the summer reading program.
It certainly
One
is.
of those ideas, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What I was going to say is I would be happy to look into this after Thanksgiving, only because my course load right now is really, it's really quite a time. It's filling up my day. So
Oh, I hear you.
after Thanksgiving, I'll be happy to look at this.
Okay. All right, so let's revisit it. I mean, I think those are some great ideas, Morgan. And it could be a way of keeping the summer reading program moving, which is always nice. And okay. Any other questions or comments or anything come up in that regard? All right.
I can, well, wait, I'm sorry, I'm stepping out of the agenda. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I stepped on the agenda.
Yeah, okay. So I hope everyone got to review the September 10th minutes. Johanna sent them to me after I sent the agenda, and then I forgot to send them sooner. So I hope you all got to read the minutes and review the minutes. Anyone need more time with them?
I had a question on the minutes.
Uh-huh.
Third bullet item, was it 18,000, 1,800 towards the study of the foundation plan?
18,000.
That's what I thought.
Does it say 1,800?
It's a typo. It's like 18,00, so it's missing a 0.
Okay. Oh,
We have two accounts, an $8,000 account and a $10,000 account. They were awarded at different times.
so I'll go ahead and make that change to them.
And otherwise, I make a motion to accept if everybody is reviewed.
If you don't mind, I'm going to do it right now so that I don't forget.
Could somebody tell me again where that note is?
It's the third bullet under
cap-
capital planning.
Yep, good catch, Morgan. Okay. Okay, so I added the 0 and I'll save it after the meeting because it's stuck behind everything. Here it goes. Saved. Okay. So Morgan made the motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, Krista, yay or nay? Tom,
Yes.
Connie,
You have to, Krista, you have to actually say yes.
she put her thumb up. Okay, you have to actually say yes.
I'm sorry, I muted the screen so you guys don't have to hear me pounding on this old keyboard.
Okay.
Yes, I approve. so.
Okay, Tom,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Connie,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so let's move on to the long-range plan, which was, I think, our goal for this evening. I need a second to maneuver through. I am sharing the screen with you. I don't do this too often, so I'm hoping that you can all see it and it will work out just fine. Connie, is that clear?
Yeah.
Screen, okay, so I think you were gonna go with it. I mean, I think the first page, I'm not sure whether there's any discussion about the introduction of the library when it was.
Yeah, maybe just to give like a little bit of background on the long range plan.
Mhm.
So the library hasn't had one for for quite a few years. I don't know how long it hasn't had one, but it's been a while since there's been a long range plan for the public library. And I guess there's two benefits to having one. The first is if we submit a strategic plan or a long range plan to the MBLC, we are then eligible to apply for grants, like programming grants or other grants that might be offered. So you can't do that unless you have a plan on file with MBLC. So that's one reason why we'd want to do that. The second is to just kind of give a direction for the library as to like what are things we want to kind of work on and strive for over the course of 5 years. So I think this was 2018, it was Josephine, me, and oh my God,
Jane.
I'm sorry, Jane. Just amazing how it was like, that's not back in my head right now. We started talking about putting one together, and so we formed a subcommittee to kind of put together a plan for us to approve. So that's just a little bit of background as to why we have one, like kind of like the benefits to it. I think Josephine's absolutely correct. This first page is really just a kind of like a history of Hubbardston Public Library. I will also qualify this and say that because we haven't had a strategic plan in many years, this is a very modest plan, really just to kind of get us into the practice of having a plan and then executing what's in it. So it might not be super inspirational, but not having had one is just getting something down on paper that we can then start to work towards. And then if, when we do the next one in 3 or 4 years, we can, it can be whatever, it can be spectacular. But this is intentionally, I think, meant to be very modest, just to kind of figure it out, because we do have to report every year to MBLC, like what progress we have made. So this isn't just a plan, like we write it and then we put it on the shelf. Like if we don't submit a plan demonstrating progress, like we're not going to be eligible for grants. So we wanted to make sure we had something that we could like actually demonstrate progress towards.
Yes. And in the beginning, when the process started, we did hire a consultant to help us. Remember Alex? And he ran the focus groups, right? So the data that you see, or the data that you see collected at the back of the long range plan, actually that isn't true, is it? That the data is a survey that we created together and then sent out to the public. And
Yeah,
we
if I
got-
understand correctly, Alex did do some focus groups. That was before I came on board, so I never worked with Alex.
Uh-huh.
But I think he did do a focus group and maybe a start of a survey.
Yeah.
And so I think we used some of that information, but then we did another survey in late summer, fall of 2018
Uh-huh.
to get additional data.
Yeah. So the work that Alex did was very minimal, in my opinion, I guess I should probably. And then he just wasn't able to finish the project with us. So then that was when the committee took over. Connie, I always forget that you weren't there then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So let's keep going. That was just a little history background. Okay.
All right, so looks like page 2 starts with our mission statement and our vision statement, which I believe is new. I think that was something that we presented to the Board of Trustees in like 2019, along with this plan for approval. So the mission statement is just kind of like the functional role of what we're trying to achieve. And then the vision is more inspirational. I don't know if you have any, want to review that or have any questions about that.
Okay.
And then, so we start with our goals and objectives. The way we've structured this out, and this varies from plan to plan, but we went with an overarching goal with then several objectives. And then under several objectives, there were strategies for achieving the goal. This first one is really kind of related to our ability to connect with the community. So whether it's through outreach with the school or with organizations, this is what the goal is about. So the library serves as the heart of the community through its relationships. And objective number 1 is very much related to our relationship with both the elementary school and the high school. So we are hoping, and which I think Chris has started doing a lot of work with the elementary school, and to having them come to the library and kind of developing information literacy skills at an early age. And then another strategy then was to start working with the Quabbin Regional High School and maybe trying to offer the library as a site for people to do their like capstone project.
Mm-hmm.
And for each strategy or objective, we list a timeline of when we want to try and achieve that by. I think a lot of this is probably, might not be fully achieved just due to COVID and the reality that we're living in right now.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we had thought about with Quabbin was, again, having it as a site for capstone projects. So maybe if they wanted to like develop like a full-fledged like social media program, right, a social media campaign, like a student could work on something like that. So that first goal is very much related to the first objective is very much related to our relationship with the surrounding schools.
Can I inject something?
Can I let Morgan go first, as she's had her hand raised for a while?
Oh, please.
Go ahead, Morgan.
So my question with regards to the timeline, the strategic plan is through 2024. Do we report back to MBLC on an annual basis at the end of 2024?
So we submit a plan, and Chris helped me with this. I believe we submit an update every October.
Oh.
And that's,
So,
Well,
and
I'll,
that's,
I'll call Liz and find out what happened, because I did not submit one in October, and I will see if I can get that straightened out.
okay. I think it's in
That's
October
okay,
or
we-
November, we submit an update of just kind of what we did the past year to
Yep.
show us that we're showing, that we're making progress on the plan, right?
Got it.
And if you didn't make progress, so you said like, oh, we're gonna do this by this date and we didn't do it, it's okay. I think we just need to explain like, why didn't we do it? And maybe it's because we did something different or COVID happened or whatever, like, you know, so so you can kind of justify like, you know, if we didn't hit a target date, like it's not the end of the world.
Mhm.
I think you just need to need to explain why.
Yeah.
Got it.
Tom?
I was going to inject that we have to include our second high school, Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School.
Yes, so that could be something that we can certainly add. I mean, well, we can, so this is the plan, right? So these are the things we've kind of somewhat committed to, but doesn't mean we can't do things outside of that. So so adding Monty Tech to that is not necessarily in our plan, but it doesn't mean we can't
include them and
include
include
them
them
in
in
any
some way.
efforts that we do. Exactly.
And in
I
fact,
just-
we have, yeah, we
I
have,
was just thinking it should appear actually in the text,
yeah.
even if it's just outreach, you know, a simple thing, just so we don't kind of forget them.
Well, that's something that we could probably add to and say in place of, or in addition to our strategic plan, we also reach out to Monty Tech Vocational School. I don't believe that they would have the same capstone project, the nature of Monty Tech, but it wouldn't hurt to have outreach for them.
I was
Right.
thinking it could help rebuild
Yeah.
the library.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not sure that we can go back and change this plan right now, but again, I think if we submit an annual report of what we've done, we can include like we're also including these efforts at the moment.
so I could take notes with that. Should I mean, I don't know if it would go in the minutes, but
Maybe just an goal 1, strategy 1, or strategy 2 update, future update to add Monty Tech to whatever it is that we
okay.
explore.
And, you know, related to that, I don't think we mentioned CW Mars participation in here. You know, maybe I don't know if that was not happening when this was written, but, you know, it just seems like that should be, and it's a big part of what we do, I think, so that should be mentioned in here in the future.
As its own goal, as a goal, or as a part of one of the objectives that we have now.
Well, I mean, even in the mission statement or I guess it would fit in the goals too, but I mean, a big part of how we serve our community, I think, is by participating in the consortium. So,
Okay.
Right, so if we want to change the mission statement, I think that is something we'd have to revise and then vote upon as a committee
sure.
and then resubmit to MBLC.
And or it's something to take into consideration on our next rendition of
Right,
it
right.
is
And that's,
I
yeah.
think that this works as a great framework, and I see it as our template for the next one. If there's something that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Connie, but if we can go above and beyond what's written in here.
Actually, this is the minimum, right? This is what we're
Exactly.
saying we're trying to do. And so anything we do above and beyond that, that's great. And that's why I'm saying this was like potentially a very modest
Mhm.
plan, just because we know we needed to hit certain benchmarks in order to be able to apply for grants.
Mhm.
And what we
So,
could
yeah.
and what we could do is we can expand off the mission statement, but my recommendation is that we take the time to focus on the goals and objectives, and then use this one as a template, expand our mission for the next draft that we submit. That's what I would say.
I would agree with that. I feel like this plan's been approved because this plan also has to be approved by MBLC. So anything you resubmit has to go through an approval process.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot in this plan that we still have to work on. That's going to take us 2 or 3 or 4 years. So I think when we get to 2024, when we do the next plan, we can unfold all of these ideas into it and make it a little bit more robust.
Now, a question with regards to goal one, objective one of instilling young citizens a lifelong love. Would we be able to add in the strategy of what we've done as far as starting a scholarship and saying that this is something in addition to it, what we have done above and beyond as
Yeah,
part of our
absolutely. I think-
reporting?
Yeah, I think when we submit the like annual kind of thing, we could say we started a scholarship program as well and say that kind of aligns with goal one, objective one.
Okay.
Objective two talks about how we engage with the community by participating in civic events. So this is just strategies 1, 2, and 3, just kind of talk about ways that we are good citizens of Hubbardston, right? So like when there's field day, we show up. If there's an annual yard sale day, like we do something. So we just kind of make an appearance, not make an appearance, but we are contributors and we are active participants in town events.
Comments or questions or? Again, that was just to give us a starting place so we could be successful.
Right, so we can add more to those. Those are just the things that came to mind that we know they kind of happen on a regular basis, and we typically see a lot of community organizations and like town organizations kind of participating in, and felt like those are ones we maybe ought to also have a presence in.
And for those of you who are newer trustees, typically we would have a book sale during yard sale day. So that was how we took part in yard sale day, but hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon.
So those are the kind of things that could go in the report, and also the senior book club. I mean, it's not specifically mentioned here, but it would fit under that, just in terms of reporting what we're doing.
Right, I think senior book club will actually fall more under, I think it's goal 4, where we start talking
Okay.
about programming.
Okay,
But some of the things we talk about, we can double dip on it, right? And it can fit into like a goal 2 and a goal 4. So. Objective 3.
Oh, you're back. I don't know what happened.
We lost a plan.
We lost a
I think you
plan.
stopped. I think you stopped sharing your screen.
I don't, okay, not intentionally, but I'll bring it back. Okay, is it back?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So, Objective 3?
Objective 3. So this is one where this is also kind of, you'll see some duplication in, I think, goal 4. But this is how we talk about like library programming that we do, that we are working with like local businesses, town organizations, and like local community members. So examples would be the gentleman who has the
Greg
Uh,
Maycheck
yes,
in the Cultural Council.
him, yes, that could be that. And then the guy who came to our meeting a couple weeks ago, who has all the, a couple months ago, is that the same guy?
Lou
Lou.
with the
That
artifacts.
could be like a local community member, so doing a program with a local community member. So it's kind of reaching out, but it's not only local businesses, it's not just like town, but we're also reaching out to local community members. And then we're going to try and do programming that kind of enfolds them into the library.
So the library in the past has worked with scouting groups. I know that, in
Mhm.
providing programming, space, resources.
Exactly, yes. So that would be a really great example.
Any other questions or comments?
Let's see. So goal 2 is really about kind of promoting library services and collections, as the title suggests. And the first thing we thought that we needed to do was to really identify the appropriate channels to communicate about library services and collections. So that's really figuring out like how should we be reaching out to our community members? Is it through Facebook? Is it through Instagram? Is it through an email listserv? So spending time to figure out like what's the best way to reach out to not only library users, but also non-library users as ways to try to bring them into the library. I don't believe we've done that yet.
I think that might be something that evolves over time as well, because methods of communication, I think that the library has done a great job of branching out into social media and sharing. But I don't think that that's the end all be all. I think that as soon as we get comfortable with one method of communication, there becomes another.
We
Right.
might eventually need staff for that.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
So, and that moves into objective 2, where we do talk about social media and that we do want to increase like libraries followers on social media by 50% by June 2021. So what we would need to do is look back and see how many users or followers we had in June 2019, and then compare it to June 2021 and see what that increase has been. I suspect it's going to be close because I think it sounds like we have got a lot of followers on our Facebook account, at least. So it seems like we're doing a really good job on that. And then also just being consistent in our posting of social media, just so doing it on a regular basis.
Cool.
Let's see. Objective 3 is contribute to the monthly wide town department report update, which we do. So that is something that we can easily check off the list. And then we also talked about hosting at least 2 activities on the library lawn, and intentionally kept ambiguous, like, so that can be whatever we want it to be. And Chris, did you not reference that we did a program earlier this month on the lawn?
That's correct. We hosted Mary Jo Maychek, and people made fairy houses on the lawn. So,
So that is something
I've
that
got
we're
a couple ideas. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a couple ideas about another activity. There's I originally was thinking of it up at the rec field during field day, but we shelved participating in that. But getting a story path and just have it go around the library, I think that would be an acceptable way of utilizing the outside.
Yep.
So, but that won't be until spring.
Okay.
The 5th objective is really, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Martin.
Chris, when trying to do it, it may be more money, but they make these really neat boxes with like the plexiglass, etc., to where you can change items out. So you can change the story walk up periodically. So it can be themed, etc., and you can change that for programming.
All right. Do you
So
know
that's
where
something.
they have them at?
I'll have to look again. I know that I've seen them, especially Coastal Maine has them. So I
Okay.
know I've seen them. I don't know where they come from though, but I think that,
All right. I'll see if I can't research that. I'll put that in my in
and
my
if
notes.
I find it, the information myself, I'll send it to you.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
Let's see. Objective 5 of the school is really to increase traffic to the library website. So getting people to come to our webpage, look at the information that's on the site, and making sure that we have relevant information that's going to be useful to them. So strategies to do that. First, we need to establish some sort of analytics to monitor the traffic. So you can get monthly, like Google Analytics, you can get a monthly report of how many people have hit your website. And then we also want, in order to keep it fresh and exciting, I guess, for lack of a better word, keeping it updated and on a regular basis. And then using social media campaigns to drive users to the library website. So, you know, if you're using Facebook or Twitter, you know, you have a link in there that you're going to try and get people to click on the library homepage to get to the homepage where they can find more information or something. So just a way to kind of drive people to the homepage.
So.
Which,
our
given the
favorite-
environment we're currently in, that's probably going to be their main way of
Mhm.
learning about the library.
Do we already have that Google Analytic on the website? Oh, I thought we had started that up. I guess not.
I'm not sure if we did or not.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think we did. I just have not utilized it, but I'm putting that in my notes to look that up as well.
So it's actively collecting the data.
I believe it is, yeah, because I
Mhm.
needed, it is doing it because I needed the numbers for the state report and I got it this year. So it is possible for me to say that. If I need more detail, I can certainly contact our web, our web guru who handles that for us.
Right.
Goal 3 is really about collections and how we collect materials that our community members want and are interested in. So objective number 1 is really creating a almost like a purchase request form, so that if somebody's interested in something, they can submit a request that we can look into purchasing the books that they want. Objective number 2 is promoting the library collections. So doing that through a variety of displays. So theme displays, hot titles, staff picks,
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. A band book week, blind date with a book, those types of things that are just kind of highlighting books in our collection in an attempt to try and get them people to borrow the books.
Mm-hmm.
3 is our ebook and audiobook usage. So ideally, we want people to know that through CW Mars, right, there is a large collection of ebooks and audiobooks available to them via Libby. So trying to increase that by 20%, we need to establish baseline data to see what the stats were in FY19, and then try to provide like informational sessions, letting people know how to access Libby or download books and audiobooks, and then do certain promotions through social media to encourage people to do so. So the goal is then to hopefully by FY21, we would see our use of ebooks and audiobooks higher than it has been. Because I think when we looked at that, I think the data was kind of low, that ebook and audiobook usage weren't nearly as prevalent as our physical book usage.
That has changed because of the COVID-19.
Right.
The numbers for electronic ebook, for using ebooks and e-audio and e-video through Overdrive and Libby has exploded.
Which is great.
So I don't think you're going to
I
have
mean,
a problem
yeah.
meeting that, just the usage stuff, but I can certainly post every couple weeks or so about Overdrive. And I offer everybody the opportunity that if they want to have access and learn how to use it, they can come in and talk to me because I'm happy to show them how to do it.
Mhm.
But most of them figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot of it's just letting them know that it exists, so some
Yep.
people might not know that that's a feature available to them or a service available to them.
right.
And objective 4 is about our museum passes. So how do we, making sure that we are offering museum passes that our community is interested in having, and then having them actually utilize them. So.
Well, I will say that recently, most museums have suspended their library pass programs. They're not honoring them because a lot of them are doing timed access.
Oh.
I do know that I received an email from the Zoo New England group that they're starting to start it up again. So hopefully other people or other institutions are also going to follow suit. But anything goes right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is something when we submit the report, it was to be like, museums have suspended this, so it's not something we could work on this year. Goal 4 is about programming. Again, somewhat ties to goal number 2 I believe, with our outreach. So making sure we provide 2 adult programs at the library. So 2 adult programs annually, maintain our children's programming, and explore young adult programming, which is something we don't do as much of. So, so just trying to make sure we offer some programming at the library, which I think we are probably doing fine. I think maybe young adult is where we might need to focus a little bit. Goal 5 is about accessibility. And so accessibility comes in a couple of different flavors. One is related to our users with disabilities. So there is a self-assessment questionnaire that we could complete, looking at our building and how accessible we are to those who are maybe need more assistance using library resources or getting into the building, accessing books off the shelves and so forth. So there's a questionnaire that I'm not sure that we've completed yet, but it's something we should probably look at doing in the near future. Strategy 2 is about the website. So ensuring that things like if we have an image on our website, that we have alt text there so that someone who's visually impaired with a screen reader can read it, read what the image is supposed to be. That's an example of it. And then explore funding for the construction of an elevator, which has been on our plan for a while. So
Yeah.
Accessibility also comes in the flavor of increasing library hours. People want more library hours if we can have them. The survey revealed that there is not necessarily one day that people want added. Like everyone had an opinion on what day they wanted added. So some people wanted Monday hours, some people wanted more like Sunday hours. So, but the idea of looking at establishing more library hours and then trying to do that in a very systematic way of, establishing baseline data. So for patron visits, and then do a pilot program where we add hours and then assessing how many people come in to see if it's actually going to be worth the money involved to do that. So just doing a systematic study of increasing hours for a pilot and seeing if it is warranted.
And Chris has started that. And
Yeah.
we actually had some data when she
Mhm.
started increasing
Yep.
hours. So, I mean, COVID throws a wrench into everything, but we have started on that.
Yeah, exactly. Goal 6 is just about us being good stewards of the library building and its resources. So one thing we had talked about with in regards to fiscal resources is whether or not we should allocate certain monies towards specific collections. Like, so some libraries will say, like, you put like $2,000 or $3,000 towards children's books, $2,000 or $3,000 towards mystery, $2,000 or $3,000 towards nonfiction or something like that. So thinking about whether or not we want to do some sort of allocation like that. And then strategy 2 is library capital improvements with the master capital plan, which is something we're currently doing. So we have a plan out for the next 4 or 5 years to do that. Preserving the historical nature of the library. Infrastructure improvements that align with the Mass Historical Commission criteria. So any kind of changes we make to make sure that we still maintain our historical status. And then opportunities to increase library funding. We talk about implementing a capital campaign, conducting fundraisers, and applying for grants to increase funds for programming. So those are, I think, opportunities we might have with the 150th anniversary, as that might be a good time to do some sort of a capital campaign or some sort of a fundraiser as well. So there might be opportunities coming down the path to do that. Objective 4 is formalizing trustee duties for the library, which is what I think has been on the agenda for like the last year and a half. We have yet to discuss. But I think a lot of it is kind of maybe defining, we talked about defining trustee roles and involvement strategies and creating subcommittees to implement some of these goals, objectives, and strategies that we have. So, is everybody involved in every single goal, or is there a group of people who, work on one aspect and another group works on another aspect? And I think at the last meeting, we started to have that conversation a little bit.
Mhm.
And then objective 5 is, just ensuring that as trustees and as a library director and as staff, that we are kind of staying abreast of the latest trends in libraries so that we are doing due diligence as administrators and being good stewards of not only money, but also of like the library as a whole. So that's kind of where we landed when we did the plan. And then the rest of this is a small portion that describes the planning process and then the results of the community survey that we did, which informed some of our goals,
Mhm.
strategies, and objectives.
Any questions or comments? Connie, that was so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything more to learn from the survey?
Honestly, I've not looked
you
at the
taken a
survey
look at it?
recently.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, so this is the thing too, I'm sure there's plenty of things we can pull out of the survey.
Yeah.
Again, this was something where to kind of get us started on a plan.
Mhm.
And this is like baseline, and we can certainly be doing more if we want to be doing more.
Mhm.
But not having had one in a while, we didn't want to start off so robust that it was unsustainable or unachievable, and then created a feeling of like deflation and just kind of like, oh, this is not fun, or this isn't good. So, but yes, I'm sure if you look through the survey, there's plenty of things that we can probably be looking at. So,
Well, let's just try to get some of this done.
that would be my suggestion, is kind of work on some of this stuff, and then when we get to the next round of strategic planning, when we can like know what we can achieve, like this is what we've done so far, so we know what we can actually kind of as a group is in our bandwidth,
Mhm.
and then kind of broaden out from there.
Well,
So is Chris going to be doing the report, or are we going to be reporting back to MBLC for what we've done this year? How does that work?
Chris, I believe you did the report last year, didn't you?
I don't believe I did. That's why I gotta go check with Liz and find out what's going
I
on.
think you did. I think
Um,
we talked about it. I think you submitted it.
Oh, okay. I'll check with them and find out what I did and
Okay.
go from there.
So to help under the minutes, I know that Krista and myself attended at least part of the MBLC service update for trustees, and that was held April 29th. So we had done part of those trainings. So that certainly goes under the objective 5.
Should this group see the report that goes out before it goes out, or?
I think that might be a good idea, is, if we put the report together, and then if we know of something that should be added, we can do that. We can have it incorporated.
I'm sure it'll be a good report. I just think we ought to, in some way, read it and endorse it for the benefit of communicating to the, what is it, MPLC?
Tom, you're saying that whatever the report is that Chris writes up that's supposed to be submitted in October, we should read and endorse as trustees.
Yeah, we can't do that outside of a meeting, so maybe that's a problem. Chris, what do you think? How big is this report? 3 pages? Or?
I can't even remember. My brain is, I'm having a hard time even remember filing the report. So I'm gonna have to look back and find out. But what I'll do is let's see, it's beginning of December, I'll have it set up so that you guys can look at it, and I'll explain to MBLC that you guys want to look at it. They're really, as long as you're doing the work, they're okay with it. So I don't see them being upset if we wait a month for you guys to look at the report before it goes in.
then I can withdraw my request, or it wasn't even really a request, it was just a comment. If you think it's a pretty routine thing to do, then just go ahead and do it.
Well, let me take a look at it, and if it can be held off until December, I'll bring it in the next meeting.
How about this? Would you send all of us last year's?
If I can find it, sure.
Yeah, I might have it somewhere too. If I find it, I'll send it out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, this is a time of crisis. The nation's in crisis. So I would imagine MBLC is okay with us being late on anything.
I would
Oh,
agree
and
with
they
that
moved to a new
100%.
location too.
Okay.
I popped a link into the chat for it's called an action plan that you submit annually. So I popped the link in about that. So.
Okay. So I think people need to grab it now if they want it, because if you don't, it will go away once we shut down the Zoom meeting. So
I don't know what you mean by you grab the link and
just
Go
go
to
and open
Click it.
that website, I guess, because once we shut down, you won't have access to that chat.
I don't see a website on my
Do you
My-
see the chat?
It's a URL. It's blue. If you
up very top.
So you need to,
let me see.
To click on the chat, right?
Do you see the chat button?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I see the chat. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
I feel like I don't know what the words are a lot of times to describe what's going on here in Zoom. So yes, and this way you'll have access to it, because once, of course, this is recorded and it will be posted on the town website. You could always go back there and grab it. So I guess the goal of this was to review the plan so we're all on the same page, and so that we all understand what's in the strategic plan and what the ideas were behind creating it. And like Connie said, it helps us get funding for the library through MBLC, and probably also mass restoration. Is it mass restoration? So where if we can get some funding when we need it, MBLC will match a certain percentage, but without having the strategic plan, we wouldn't even be able to apply. So that was one of the reasons why we created the long-range plan, strategic plan, but also because as trustees, I think objective 4 here, formalizing our duties so that we all feel like we take an active part and we know what the goals are for ourselves and for the library and where we want to go moving into the future. So that was why this has been on the agenda for a year and a half, if not longer.
Can I put 2 cents into it? I think that it has to be fluid a little bit. Some subcommittees, such as the scholarships subcommittee, Connie being on the road race, like subcommittee and meeting and things like that, it's not going to be a continuous, and sometimes those might even change. So again, I think that it's very beneficial to have it as open and as broad, but defining that the roles mirror the mission, the vision, and support all the goals and objectives of the strategic plan. So specific roles, if you get and put it into black and white, saying the chair is going to be doing this and the secretary does that, sometimes it narrows you down into a corner. Whereas if you have it as broad of saying it will be the job of all trustees to ensure that minutes are taken, that subcommittees are formed in a timely manner to address road race, scholarship, things like that. I would advise in writing it or fulfilling objective 4 in that manner than trying to pinpoint it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And definitely, I don't think we need to write that in anything into the strategic plan. I think it's more each of us thinking about what is important to us. And I don't disagree, it's fluid. And sometimes Connie will be on the road race committee and sometimes Krista might, step in, and we all like changing roles. But I feel like, I don't know, if we meet each month, and I'm not necessarily sure everyone knows exactly what we're meeting about every time we sit down. And yeah, I always think to identify our own goals in helping to achieve whatever we determine as a board what the library might need through the strategic plan isn't a bad idea for us to know what each individual is doing on the board, and what we want to do. I mean, in the beginning, I was doing a lot of the grant writing. I don't like grant writing. It's so hard. So when Tom came in and he said, and I was writing the stuff for the CPC committee, the grant, that stuff too. And I was like, it is so hard and it takes so much time. When Tom jumped in and said, hey, I'll do it, I was so grateful for that. So everyone has like there's what they're good at. And definitely for me, it's not finances. So I don't think it's a bad idea to know what each of us, what we would like to take on. Which parts of the strategic plan do we like? There are parts in the strategic plan that I know I don't want to touch any of the social media stuff or the Facebook. I know I don't want to do that. It's too stressful. So I think for each of us to identify where we would like to go and what we would like to do, and to have some goals, I feel like that's a nice thing to do. So, and it doesn't have to go into the strategic plan. It's each of us knowing what we do on the board.
There's another aspect too, when it says trustee duties. There's a little booklet put out by the library trustees of the world. And it's got duties, perhaps from a different view, but nevertheless duties and responsibilities and all that stuff. So we ought to read that every year as well.
Yep. And I'm surprised, I know we talked about this last time, and I was surprised to hear everyone didn't receive it, because I know mine came in the mail. It is, I think I forgot that you can see me scrolling through the websites, but here it is. So it's on the MBLC website, and I'm going
Actually,
to.
we can't see the MBLC website.
Oh, okay, you can. I'm going to copy, I'm going to do what Connie did and put it in the chat. So there it is. So there's a link to the MBLC trustees handbook right there in, okay.
So I was one of those that did not receive like a book,
Yeah.
but I think one of you had shared, and I have this kind of in an email that I had referred back to digitally.
Yeah. So they probably stopped sending out the physical book and just have it on the website now. But, I don't know how many of us have reviewed that. When I reviewed it, it was quite a while ago, I have to say. So I don't, we have this role and we're all elected officials, and I myself, feel like I've slacked a little bit as a trustee. So there's no harm in reviewing, and it's not something we have to do. We can keep going the way we're going. It's fine. We each work really hard and we do our part. But if I know Morgan's interested in doing more grant work or doing more outreach, community, local outreach stuff, like with Mock, wasn't Mock anymore. Well, I think there's benefit to knowing those things, but it's really up to you. I'm just, another member on the board. And what do you guys
I think too, if we know where each of our strengths are,
think?
then it also helps us maybe try to recruit other trustees. Like if there is a vacancy, to kind of fill in to see if we can recruit somebody who has something that's not a skill set that's not being met currently by one of the trustees.
Great
And I
point.
know it's a small town, it might be hard to do that, but like in an ideal world, you'd be able to
Yeah.
try and recruit somebody who's like got the skill set that we need.
So do we want to identify subcommittees? Like not that they have to be set in stone like Morgan was saying, but like, do we want a grant? You know, if grant writing is important to us, or
Yes.
for example, this anniversary, you know, a few people have expressed interest in, you know, that could be a subcommittee and working on that, or a
Mhm.
publicity committee.
I would like to say yes to that. And my reasoning is if we don't have people specifically assigned to do certain tasks, what happens is we miss the deadlines. Because, you know, if there's like specifically MBLC grants, I have no idea what's happening with the grants right now. Construction grants or grants that could help us with some of the work we want to do. And if someone's really interested in that and they're checking and reading, then we have information about what's going on with the grants rather than, you know, it comes up at a meeting and then we go and I realize, oh yeah, I need to check that. And then I go and check. And maybe that's once a year and then we've missed the deadline. I'm putting that on myself because I used to regularly check the grant deadlines and I haven't done that in a long time for whatever the reasons are. So it might be helpful to have to know what people are interested in, what their strengths are, and whether they want to take an active part in some of that.
So can subcommittees meet outside of the, I mean, do they have to be public meetings or
Two can meet.
only two?
Well, I think that's my recommendation. I think you can figure out a way to do more than two, but I think the best thing to do is have two. That's the same as two people walking up to each other and having a conversation,
Oh, you're saying two people, not okay.
which is perfectly legal.
Yeah.
You can't, it's not a quorum. You can't vote on things, but you can do work.
Yes.
That's the simplest way to handle it.
And the long range plan was an example of that. Connie and I sat down and Jane joined us as the library director. Connie did a lot of the writing and then the plan came back to a trustee meeting where it was reviewed by everyone and then agreed upon. And
When I said two, it's two trustees.
yep, two trustees.
You can have anybody else you want. You can have Ryan or Chris or anybody else you want, but two trustees.
Yeah. You know, and there don't necessarily have to be meetings besides the meeting that we're in once a month. If each person decides what they're doing, working, you know, as they're working towards whatever the committee is. So I'm going to use grants again, just for the heck of it. So if one person's researching MBLC grants, another person's researching some other kinds of grants, and then the information can come back to the trustees at a meeting.
I don't mean to drag it into a specific, but I thought we were ineligible for MBLC grants because we don't have a single purpose library.
A single perfect library?
Single purpose.
I think I can,
Oh,
yeah,
a
I can
single-
contribute to
building
this.
is- Go ahead, Chris. Yes.
I talked to MBLC. What they'll do is they'll offer a grant for library improvements, limiting it to the portion of the building that is dedicated to the library. So we wouldn't be able to use monies for the third floor and we wouldn't be able to use monies for the basement. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to ask them how they would address an elevator. Because, you know, would we just have an elevator going up to the second floor? We'd really want one going up to the third floor for, you know, future access, but that's not part of the library.
All right, I had never heard that better definition. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That means we might get like a weatherization grant if we went through the floor that the library's on.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
A historic society grant or a historic, you know. Yeah, so I mean, in my thinking, if we had people interested in this who wanted to do that research regularly and keep us up to date as a board, go for it.
Well, I think the plan is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Having read it a long time ago and now going through it again, it's better. And Connie and Joe and everybody else who worked on it, thank you very much.
Okay, so any points of discussion?
Can I just ask for the minutes? Do we want to specifically state any of these subcommittee ideas? Or,
You know, what I would say is let's each of us reread whoever wants to read the handbook, and then think about your strengths and how you want to be on the board. If you want a specialized spot on the board, it's up to you. Maybe we can come back and talk about it again.
okay. thank
This
you.
was a reviewing of the strategic plan and maybe a start to thinking. And it doesn't, if everyone's not on board, we're not on board. We'll just keep going the way we're going. That's fine. It works.
What we could also do is list make a list of those things that we are already doing.
Mhm.
We have a race, we have some facility work, we have supporting the director and her needs, we make this list and we assign someone to be the specialist in that. He's not a subcommittee or she's not a subcommittee. But when you have a question about something, you go down the list and you say, I'm going to ask person A about that because they have tracked that over the years and are more likely than others to know what the hell is going on. So I don't know, a list of specialists, a list of areas of interest.
So like a point person for each goal, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, not even for the goal, but just for topics, or maybe it is for, maybe you can align them better with the goals. But
So if I'm understanding Tom, and what we're discussing, some of it right off the base, road race, a name next to that would be Connie. We go to Connie for that. Scholarship committee last time was Tom and myself. I'm going to say, I don't want to say building integrity, Tom.
I would call it, physical plan. Although Chris is the boiler person.
Okay. And also Chris knew the secret location of light switches. And I would also put Chris as social media. She has really done a fabulous job in maintaining and putting the library out and helping us maintain and grow social media.
Okay.
Well, maybe what we want to do is go off and think about this and come back next time with our 3 items that each of us are willing to assume some responsibility for, at least being the point person. And then, of course, the list for all the ones we want to unload on others. That was a joke. Really not a joke.
Okay, let's do it that way. Each of us will identify 3 areas that we're willing to want to, not necessarily willing, to be the point person for.
If it can go in the minutes, I know I might not have the mental capacity to remember and remind myself, but I work with Mock. I don't work with them, but I still get a lot of notices from them and I associate a lot. So that early education bit through the EEAC, which is Early Education Advisory Council, I'm on that and Mock is on that. So I receive a lot of their notices, and I still have children in the early elementary and now middle high. So that education bit and into the community with children, I love.
Okay.
So goal 1, you would, is that what you're saying? Goal 1?
Yeah.
Or just the some
I would
parts
say
of
some
that?
kind of strength on that. I'm not sure how to put it into a goal, but it's also 8:20 and it's time change. So my mind is still like at 9:20 shutting down now. Sorry.
I do have CNN on next to me. You probably could tell. Okay, so we have a starting place and something to think about. And we'll each jot something down, come back and talk about it at the next meeting. Oh gosh, forgive me. Is there something else on the agenda? That was it, right?
Tom,
I got a real quick one.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
I searched and searched and searched for a foundation engineer or a structural engineer. I went through the historical commissions and everybody and couldn't find anybody, gave up and went over to Ryan, and Ryan found one. He's going to charge $3,000 or thereabouts for a inspection and a report. He's a registered professional engineer, so he'll be insured and all that kind of stuff. If he pulls out a brick and the wall falls down, we'll be covered. He's not going to do the work, but he will do the analysis of what work needs to be done, et cetera, et cetera. And what I wish tonight is approval for us to advance on that and award him a contract through Ryan for around $3,000 and get the show on the road. His name is, I wrote it down here on a piece of paper, just a minute. He's in Oxford. Sorry, I have brain failure, but never mind.
It's in the email, right? Okay.
Yeah, I sent you an email about it, Josephine, and I'll send everybody else an email when I say to Ryan, the trustees have approved moving on this, advancing it. I don't know if we need a vote, but maybe we should, just so that I'm not walking out alone here.
So we have funds under both the foundation fund. I'm looking at it. It says 8,000. Would it come from that?
Yes. There's actually two funds. There's 8,000 and 10,000.
Yeah, the 10,000 says it's for repair. So I assume where this is just the inspection and report, it would come from the foundation.
That's right. We come out of that account, and it's one of these deals where I bet it's phase one, and then he, charges you more to do the next phase, which would be writing detailed specifications on what kind of bricks to use or something like that. But we will start at the shallow end of the pool and get in with $3,000. And oops.
I make a motion that we accept and proceed with gain a report and inspection.
A second.
Tom, do we have all the info that you wanted to give
Yeah,
us?
I have everything I need. I'm looking it up right now on my phone. His name is O'Connor. No, I'm sorry. Johnson Structural Engineering Company in Rochdale, Massachusetts. I have all the contact information, but the purchase order would actually go out through Ryan.
Okay.
So
I'm
this
looking for
is approval to hire this company for an analysis of the work that needs to be done on the building foundation.
that'd be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
And Johnson Structural Engineering Company.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And
So the motion was made.
yeah, and Connie second.
So let's see. Tom?
I'm
that's you.
voting yes.
Yes. Okay. Krista?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
Connie?
Yes.
Yes, myself. Okay. That's great that Ryan was able to help with that.
Yeah, he as usual has a lot more contacts than me. He goes into his database of other town administrators and pulls it out of the hat. Does a great job for us.
Okay, so I would ask that if anyone wants anything added to the next agenda, please email me, whatever that thing is that you would like to add to the agenda. And
I would like to ask if, I don't want to get into it now, but if my trust fund report made any sense, and if it's something we have to act on, then we can discuss it next time.
yeah, let's discuss it next time. We
Okay.
can start with the trust fund report. I mean, it's not something that's urgent, right?
No, it isn't. No. I just wanted to know if I communicated in a sensible way.
Okay.
And that would be the same for the 150th anniversary. We have time on that, but
Okay,
put it on the next agenda if you want to.
okay, so we'll 150th anniversary and trust fund. So those will be at the top of the list.
And then we will come back about the our interest in the
Yep.
being the point person.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else that anyone would like to bring up? Okay, so it's 8:29. Let's make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make such a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Krista, yay or nay?
Yes. Yes.
Connie,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.